It is absolutely freezing in the UK right now. There's no way I'm going in the workshop, so what better time to recap some of those awesome bikes that I built in 2025. Well, welcome back to Down the Smooth Tarmac. I'm Jeff, and this is your YouTube home for all things cycling, particularly if you like a bit of gravel and adventure flavour and you don't want to spend too much money. So our part of the UK is currently gripped by ice, snow and freezing weather. So I'm not feeling going into the workshop to start the 2026 builds just yet. Why not stay here in the warmth of the office and recap some of the bikes I've built in 2025, whether they've stayed the course or not, what went well, what didn't, and where they are now. So let's kick things off. Bike number one came at Christmas time the year before last now, so Christmas of 2024. And it was the Raleigh Galaxy touring bike that I converted into a Raleigh Equip replica as a tribute to my brother. It was the bike that got me into road bikes as a kid. He had an Equip, I had a mountain bike. I even restored his years ago, but it's long since gone. I wanted something made out of Reynolds tubing and a bit lighter that I could have mudguards on and all that sort of thing so that I could use it for winter cycling duties on the road. And it did just that. It got me through the winter season, particularly because I fitted full mudguards and those cantilever brakes for plenty of power. However, yes, I did fit carbon rims, primarily because Dave gave them to me and said, use these up. And I thought, why not put them on there? That'll get people talking. Well, it did. The most important thing that people spoke about was the smell coming from my wheels during winter rides when it was wet, when they got a bit hot. However, they're still good to go. They just were a little bit noisy and a little bit stinky. The rest of the bike, the gearing, the SRAM gearing that I pretty much rescued from the bin is still working. It's still going strong. Brakes are still sharp. The carbon rims have got plenty of life still left in them. And the paintwork, even the paintwork on the mudguards, is still looking good. In fact, the only thing that hasn't held up so well was that matching bottle cage that I did. That thing's looking a little bit rough now if we take a look at it in the workshop. However, problems with it, pretty much zero, apart from one of the carbon brake pads coming loose. That added to that noise and smell coming from those brakes. Everything else on the bike was absolutely spot on. Is it still in the fleet? Yes, it's still in the fleet and being ridden from time to time. Next bike for me has got to be the Raleigh Mirage. I built this for Cabo, the cheap bike build off. I paid about £30, or was it 50? I can't remember. I'll put a link to the video for this Raleigh Mirage, and I upgraded it on the budget. We had 120 English pounds to spend to build a cool bike. And I got in there. I got in the run-in, I made the cut, and I lasted to the second round, and then I was out of there. But unlike some people, I actually rode mine. I got it out there, I got it muddy, and I gave you a video of it in action. And it was actually a really good, fun bike. Everything worked on it. The gears were great. The brakes were okay. Well, they'd be as good as they were going to be. And that sweatback bar was good fun, but the bike was never going to fit me properly. It was a little bit small for me. So what happened to it? Well, I ended up taking it and selling it on eBay. I held it for months for a buyer who I then met at the train station with the bike, and he told me the greatest story. That bike is now in Brazil. It's with him in Brazil and it's being ridden around. How cool is that? So that one has gone on, and it went on exactly as I built it for the cheap bike build off. That was a great bike, and you guys certainly also enjoyed it. Next up was one of my personal favourites, the Sariss Tough Tracks from the 80s. I got this frame from Frankie Says on Instagram, who has since facilitated a number of my frames for my builds and is a top guy. And an ultimate facilitator for a lot of us who like to base our builds on retro frames. But the Sariss, anyway, I took the 80s Sariss and I gave it some seriously modern flavours. 1x12 SRAM drivetrain for a start, And then I wanted to keep it modern and fresh with some hydraulic rim brakes, some Magura HS11s. But it wasn't to be. I started to make sacrifices. I put a wider wheel set in, got rid of the Hope wheels that I had some Hope hubs laced to some lovely silver rims. That disappeared. First test ride showed me straight away that those HS11s were nowhere near as good as the old HS33s that I remember of old. So I made some changes. I put the Hope wheels back in and I put some XTV brakes and some seriously lightweight Light Pro brake levers. The whole bike then became perfection. It was fantastic, and it ended up being my lunchtime bike ride bike from work, and I reviewed it as such. I took it out with Martin from work. We went for a ride, had a great time. Shortly after I turned the cameras off, I then went flying, buckled the front wheel, and had to do some remedial repairs. The Sariss Tough Tracks also still built and still in the running as a contender for rides in sort of drier weather. I quite like to keep it nice and clean. Part of it, I love the fact that it's nice and clean. After that one, it's time for a brand new bike. The guys at Pickering's Bikes and Genesis Bikes teamed up to let me review the Genesis Vagabond. If you're not familiar with the Vagabond, it's a monster cross gravel bike. So it's a lovely relaxed geometry bike that comes with 29 by 2.35 tyres, stating its intentions as an aggressive off-road do-it-all machine. After my first ride, me and the Vagabond fell in love. This thing for me is like riding an old wing-back chair. It's super comfortable, super capable, and covers all bases. Following the first couple of rides and the review, I contacted Dave at Pickering's Bikes, and we did a deal with the guys at Genesis, and I bought that bike with my own money. It was that good. I then fitted a second wheel set, a DT Swiss wheel set to it for some bike packing duties, and mixed in. I've got my two wheel sets now. It's great for multi-day rides. It's great for thrashing about the trails. It's great for everything. It was so good, in fact, that I encouraged Chops to buy one, and she bought a Vagabond 20 that she also has two wheel sets for and enjoys very much. You can tell how much I've enjoyed it because it's featured in tons of videos. It's been my Gravelton bike for the Peaky Finder and the National Forest Explorer, among other things, and I also used it for the Malverns trip, and it's still in regular use today. For winter duties, it's back on its original wheel set with plenty of knobble and a lovely bit of tubeless. The Vagabond, fantastic bike. Next up has to be the Specialized Sirrus. You guys loved this video. Instead of going retro, I went brand new. I took a brand new Sirrus basic rim brake frame and created what turned out to be a fantastic gravel bike. The first ride, again, the shakedown ride, we had some issues. We had some gearing issues and the back wheel pretty much gave up on me. So in the second ride, we ended up using some carbon wheels and really lightening it up. And that thing is being used a lot. Both me and my cousin Cameron ride that one quite a bit. It's quite a popular bike. All I had to do in the end was shorten the stem down a touch to make it fit just that little bit better. But the Sirrus just became my do-it-all bike for the back end of the summer. I used that bike an awful lot for a lot of rides, and the only problem I had with it was running TPU tubes and getting puncture after puncture. So that was the only letdown on that, and I think that thing's crying out for a tubeless conversion going forwards. Finally, cannot finish off talking about 2025's builds without talking about the Gary Fisher Ferris build. This was a Gary Fisher Ferris frame donated by a viewer, Simon. I fell in love with this frame the minute he gave it to me. I thought this is going to be a bike I'm going to ride a lot. And it became a solid platform, basically for testing out the top shelf redshift bars, but more than that, a 650B conversion. I ran it rigid for the first ride, 2x10 Tiagra with Hope. It was Hope hubs and DT Swiss rims with Schwalbe G1 all-round tyres. I also used it for a video to experiment with making my own short travel gravel suspension forks from an old set of Suntours, which spurred you guys on to give that stuff a go as well. Is that one still in service? Oh yes, that bike is still being ridden a lot. It's a great bike. It looks ever so slightly odd with the handlebars and the setup, and there's a lot of seat posts despite it being an extra large frame, but it caters for those rides where everything gets a bit messy and muddy. I've now fitted some chonking great Z-File mudguards on it. That'll feature in another video at some point, I'm sure. The Ferris, that's a real keeper, and I'm eternally grateful to Simon for the donation. Will it stay as a drop bar bike? Not sure. It's staying in the fleet, but I've got an itch to do some flat bar stuff with that as well, because it'd just be a superb conversion. The frame is so versatile, especially with the eccentric bottom bracket. Could there be some single speed vibes coming along? Maybe, but the Ferris is here to stay. Finally, I'm going to just mention a little special shout out to my Genesis CDA 10 that is still in service. It's been 2 years for the CDA 10 pretty much now, and I used it for a couple of bikepacking trips, the Rutland trip, and a couple of other little excursions. And I also used it as the platform for testing the kit given to me by Redshift. So it now sports the Redshift stem and seat post, as well as the comfort control grips, and it is a regular bike in use, that one. Cannot praise the CDA enough for what those bikes cost and the cost of some simple modifications. It is a fantastic and usable bike with superb handling characteristics. Bearing in mind the only thing that's going to be replaced by is another CDA. I would love to try out the new one at some point. So there you have it. A handful of bikes from 2025, all of which have their own videos dedicated to them if you decide you want to go and have a watch and see those builds in more detail. Please do if you get a minute, and let me know what you think. Which one of those builds really grabbed you the most? Because I want my channel to grow, and if you guys tell me what you like to see in the builds and what you weren't so keen on, maybe I can tailor things a little bit to keep Downhill Smooth Tarmac growing. Anyway, enough of that. It's time to sign off. Hope your next ride is downhill smooth tarmac. Keep your wheels spinning, your rubber on the road, your knobblies out on that trail. Be safe out there. Look out for one another. Remember the rules. Be a good human being first and an even better cyclist second. If you get a minute, like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel to grow. But, and it is a huge but, don't let any of that get in the way of you getting out and riding your bike. Make 2026 your year of riding. Until next time, thank you for watching.